You know, Sun Tzu's The Art of War is ancient, right? We're talking over 2,500 years old. And yet its lessons on strategy, well, they feel more relevant today than ever. This isn't just a book about old-school battlefields. It's really a guide for navigating the crazy, complex challenges we all face every day. So, what can this ancient wisdom actually teach us about how to win in our modern world?
Okay, we've all been there, right? You spend hours, maybe even days, putting together the perfect plan. I mean, every detail is mapped out, you've thought of every possible problem, and then, the second it actually makes contact with reality, poof, it just falls apart. Why does that happen? It's a frustration that's literally as old as time.
Well, Sun Tzu has a really powerful answer for us. He says the secret to winning isn't about finding one perfect trick and just using it over and over. Nope. He says true mastery comes from adapting your methods to the constantly shifting, infinitely varied circumstances you're actually in. So first up, when good plans fail. This really gets at a critical paradox. A good plan, if you cling to it too tightly, can actually become your biggest weakness. The world changes, right? Your competitors adapt, and that brilliant strategy that worked yesterday could be the very thing that sinks you today.
You have to remember, Sun Tzu's advice is super practical. He wasn't some philosopher just thinking deep thoughts. He was a general. He actually warns against getting lost in abstract theories, what he calls bookish theoric. Strategy isn't a script you just follow word for word. It's more like a live performance where you have to constantly improvise and jump on opportunities as they appear.
All right, Section 2, be like water. To explain this idea of a fluid strategy, Sun Tzu uses one of the most powerful and famous metaphors in all of history. He tells us to stop being a rigid fortress and instead to become like water, formless, adaptable, and absolutely relentless.
So, this is the core concept we're talking about, variation in tactics. What does that really mean? It means understanding that in any kind of conflict or competition, nothing is ever static. There are no constant conditions. Your game plan has to be shaped by what your opponent is doing and by the environment you're in. Victory is found in how you respond, not in your initial plan.
And this brings us to a really crucial distinction. A rigid plan, it's brittle. The second it's hit with unexpected pressure, it just shatters. It's predictable, which, gives your opponent a huge advantage. It's like trying to fight your way up a powerful river. But an adaptive strategy, that's resilient. It's unpredictable. It doesn't fight the current, it flows around the obstacles, always finding the path of least resistance to its goal.
This quote, this is the very essence of the be like water philosophy. Think about it. Water doesn't waste its energy trying to smash through a mountain. It flows around it, finding the cracks and valleys. In the same way, a brilliant strategist doesn't just launch a head-on attack against their enemy's greatest strength. No way. They find the weaknesses and they exploit them.
And this idea just keeps building on itself. Just like the terrain literally shapes the path of a river, your opponent's actions should shape your strategy. See, victory isn't about forcing your plan onto a situation. It's about letting your plan emerge from the situation. It's a responsive dance, not some rigid pre-written monologue.
Okay, Section 3, Rules for Breaking Rules. Now, this is where Sun Tzu's advice gets really next level. Being adaptable doesn't just mean you're willing to change your plan. Sometimes it means knowing which fundamental rules you actually have to break.
Let's just pause for a second and think about how radical this is. Sun Tzu is telling us that sometimes the most obvious path is a trap. The clearest target is just bait. And this is the big one, that a good general on the ground must sometimes have the wisdom and the courage to disobey a direct order from their boss if the situation demands it. That's huge.
And ultimately, it's this deep, almost intuitive understanding of flexibility that defines true leadership. It's what separates a manager who just follows the playbook from a real strategist who can snatch victory right from the jaws of defeat. On to Section 4, the 5 dangerous faults. So if being adaptable is the key to success, what's the fast track to failure? Well, Sun Tzu points to 5 specific character flaws in a leader that are absolutely fatal, precisely because they destroy your ability to adapt.
He says there are 5 of them, and each one is basically a psychological trap, a kind of mental rigidity that a clever opponent can and will use against you.
All right, let's break these down. Recklessness, that's just a blind addiction to action for action's sake. Cowardice is a paralyzing fear of any risk. A hasty temper, that makes you predictable. Your opponent knows they can just push your buttons with a simple insult and make you do something dumb. A delicacy of honor means you can be easily shamed into making bad moves. And believe it or not, even caring too much for your people can be a weakness if it makes you afraid to make tough but necessary calls.
You see the pattern here, right? Every single one of these faults makes a leader predictable. They turn a leader into a rock solid, unmoving, and easy to shatter, right when they need to be like water. They are the exact opposite of that adaptable mindset you need to win.
And that brings us to our last section, your modern battlefield. So, how do we take all this ancient wisdom and actually apply it to our lives? Because let's be honest, whether you're launching a new product, negotiating a business deal, or just planning your career, you are operating on a competitive battlefield, and the same principles apply.
And this is really the ultimate lesson here. You can memorize every tactic in the art of war, but Sun Tzu's core teaching is that success doesn't come from a checklist. It comes from cultivating a mindset of flexibility, of awareness, and of constant, relentless adaptation. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. In your work, in your relationships, in your personal goals, where are you being rigid? Where are you trying to fight the current? And where could you maybe achieve so much more by just letting go of the plan and learning how to flow around the obstacle?